friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Lauren, you may also call me Lo, and today I'm bringing you my summer TBR. So thank you so much for being here. I hope you're doing well, and let's get on into it. If you've been watching my channel for a little while, you probably know that I haven't posted any TBRs. And the reason for that is that I'm just like way too much of a mood reader to possibly hold myself to a monthly TBR. It's just never ever gonna happen. I also listen to books as they come in on my Libby app, and that's about half of my reading. So it could never work for me. However, I love watching TBR videos, and I've been trying to think of a way to make them without putting so much pressure on myself. And I decided that I'm gonna try doing a seasonal TBR, starting with summer, obviously. And for me, summer books are mostly like romances, contemporaries, and historical fictions. So that's kind of what I selected for this. But I'm so excited about all of these books, and I can't wait to share them with you. So the first 4 books on this list are going to be books that I plan to listen to through my Libby app, and they're all romances. So historically, I haven't been a big romance reader, but I recently read Beach Read by Emily Henry, and I really enjoyed that. So I'm going to try to delve into that genre a bit further, and I have until the end of September to read these books, so I think it's reasonable. The first book is another Emily Henry book, and that is People We Meet on Vacation. This book follows 2 best friends, Alex and Poppy, who for a decade went on a vacation together every single summer. However, 2 years ago, everything got ruined, and the 2 haven't spoken since. Now, Poppy is kind of living her best life. She should be happy, but she's not. And she decides to convince Alex to go on one last vacation with her so she can finally fix things. Miraculously, he agrees. Now she has 1 week to fix everything. If only she can get around the one big truth that has always stood quietly in the middle of their seemingly perfect relationship. What could possibly go wrong? From the New York Times best-selling author of Beach Read, a sparkling new novel that will leave you with the warm, hazy afterglow usually reserved for the best vacations. So this book is friends to lovers, while Beach Read was enemies to lovers. I feel like I do better with friends to lovers in general, so I'm very, very excited to pick this one up. I think I'm going to love it, hopefully. The next one is another Emily Henry book, and this is her new release called Book Lovers. This one is an enemies to lovers romance. One summer, 2 rivals, a plot twist they didn't see coming. Nora Stevens' life is books. She's read them all. And she is not that type of heroine. Not the plucky one, not the laid-back dream girl, and especially not the sweetheart. In fact, the only people Nora is a heroine for are her clients, for whom she lands enormous deals as a cutthroat literary agent, and her beloved little sister Libby, which is why she agrees to go to Sunshine Falls, North Carolina for the month of August, when Libby begs her for a sister's trip away. With visions of a small-town transformation for Nora, who she's convinced needs to become the heroine of her own story. But instead of picnics and meadows, or run-ins with a handsome country doctor or bulging four-armed bartender, Nora keeps bumping into Charlie Lastra, a bookish, brooding editor from back in the city. It would be a meet-cute if not for the fact that they've met many times and it's never been cute. If Nora knows she's not an ideal heroine, Charlie knows he's nobody's hero. And as they're thrown together again and again in a series of coincidences no editor worth their salt would allow, what they discover might just unravel the carefully crafted stories they've written about themselves. This one, I feel like everyone's been talking about because it just came out. So I put a hold on it on my Libby app, but I have to wait 12 weeks, so this might be one of the last ones on this TBR that I read, but I definitely want to get to it. The next one I'd like to try is The Kiss Quotient by Helen Hoang. This book seems to be a booktube favorite in the romance genre, so I'd like to kind of dip my feet into this one. This book follows a woman who is very good at math and believes that math kind of runs the world. And her job has to do with creating algorithms to predict customer purchases. She's very successful and has made a lot of money that she doesn't know what to do with, and she has no experience in the romance department. So she hires a male escort to teach her everything there is to know about romance and relationships. Before long, Stella not only learns to appreciate his kisses, but to crave all the other things he's making her feel. Soon, their no-nonsense partnership starts making a strange kind of sense, and the pattern that emerges will convince Stella that love is the best kind of logic. And the final romance pick for my summer TBR is The Charm Offensive by Alice Cochrane. This book follows a man who is a successful producer on a Bachelor-like dating show. But then the show casts disgraced tech wonderkind Charlie Winshaw as its star. Charlie is far from the romantic Prince Charming ever after expects. He doesn't believe in true love and only agreed to the show as a last-ditch effort to rehabilitate his image. In front of the cameras, he's a stiff, anxious mess with no idea how to date 20 women on national television. Behind the scenes, he's cold, awkward, and emotionally closed off. As Dev fights to get Charlie to connect with the contestants on a whirlwind, worldwide tour, they begin to open up to each other. And Charlie realizes he has better chemistry with Dev than any of his female co-stars. But even reality TV has a script. And in order to find happily ever after, they'll have to consider whose love story gets told. In this witty, heartwarming romantic comedy, reminiscent of Red, White, and Royal Blue and One to Watch, an awkward tech wonderkind on a reality dating show goes off script when sparks fly with his producer. So now I'm gonna go into the 6 physical books that I'd like to get to this summer. The first book is In 5 Years by Rebecca Searle. This book follows a woman who, for all intents and purposes, is living her best life. She recently landed an interview for her dream job, and her boyfriend just proposed to her. She goes to bed one night feeling completely satisfied with her life. But when she wakes up, she's in a completely different room with a completely different man in her bed. Danny spends exactly 1 hour, 5 years in the future before she wakes again in her own home on the brink of midnight. And it is 1 hour she cannot shake. In 5 Years is an unforgettable love story, but it is not one you're expecting. So I guess this is sort of magical realism with the time jump, but I'm putting it on this list. I feel like for the most part, this is just a contemporary, possibly a romance. I'm not really sure, but I'm very, very excited to read this one. Next is a book I've heard nothing but great things about from people who've read it, and that is Fiona and Jane by Jean Chen Ho. This is a book of short stories that alternate between Fiona's perspective and Jane's perspective, and the two are best friends and have been for most of their lives, but they recently have moved to different cities, and strained by distance and unintended betrayals, the women float in and out of each other's lives, their friendship both a beacon of home and a reminder of all they've lost. It says this debut collection peels back the layers of female friendship, the intensity, resentment, and boundless love, to probe the beating hearts of young women coming to terms with themselves and each other in light of the insecurities and shame that hold them back. And it's been a while since I read a book of short stories, so I think it's about time to pick this one up. Next is a book that I honestly can't believe I haven't read yet because it's by one of my favorite authors, and that is Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I read The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, gave that 5 stars, and Daisy Jones and the Six I gave 4 stars. So obviously I'm eagerly anticipating the day that I pick this book up. This book takes place in the summer of 1983 in Malibu, and it kind of follows different members of the Rivas family. And everything's kind of leading up to this party that Nina Rivas is throwing that's supposed to be the party of the year. By midnight, the party will be completely out of control. By morning, the Riva mansion will have gone up in flames. But before that first spark in the early hours before dawn, the alcohol will flow, the music will play, and the loves and secrets that shaped this family's generations will all come rising to the surface. Malibu Rising is a story about one unforgettable night in the life of a family. The night they each have to choose what they will keep from the people who made them and what they will leave behind. I can't tell you how excited I am to read this. The fact that I've procrastinated this long is absolutely ridiculous. The next book I'd really like to read is Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmis. This book is a historical fiction that follows a female scientist named Elizabeth Zott, who falls in love with a man at work and soon finds herself a single mother. She also finds herself the reluctant star of America's most beloved cooking show, Supper at 6. Elizabeth's unusual approach to cooking proves revolutionary. But as her following grows, not everyone is happy. Because, as it turns out, Elizabeth Zott isn't just teaching women to cook. She's daring them to change the status quo. I can't wait to read this. It sounds so good. I can't believe I haven't picked it up yet, honestly, but it's happening. It's happening this summer. I guarantee it. Next is Cleopatra and Frankenstein by Coco Malors. This book follows Cleo, who is a 24-year-old painter who falls in love with a man 20 years her senior named Frank. And I believe this is just kind of a character study of Cleo and Frank, who call themselves Cleopatra and Frankenstein. And it says each compulsively readable chapter explores the lives of Cleo, Frank, and an unforgettable cast of their closest friends and family as they grow up and grow older. Whether it's Cleo's best friend struggling to embrace his gender queerness in the wake of Cleo's marriage, or Frank's financially dependent sister arranging sugar daddy dates to support herself after being cut off, or Cleo and Frank themselves as they discover the trials of marriage and mental illness, each character as absorbing and painfully relatable as the last. I've heard great things about this book, and it seems like a good summer read for me. Last but not least is I Love You, But I've Chosen Darkness by Claire Vaye Watkins. This book follows a woman who is experiencing postpartum depression who goes on a business trip to Reno. Her temporary escape from domestic duties and an opportunity to reconnect with old friends mutates into an extended flight from the confines of marriage and motherhood, and a seemingly bottomless descent into the past. Deep in the desert where she grew up, she meets her ghosts at every turn. Her first love, whose self-destruction still haunts her. Her father, a member of one of the most famous cults in American history. Her mother, whose native spark gutters with every passing year. She can't go back in time to make any of it right. But what exactly is her way forward? Alone in the wilderness, at last, she begins to find how to make herself at home in the world. This one I really haven't heard a lot of people on BookTube talk about. Maybe anyone on BookTube talk about, but I picked this up purely because it sounded really good to me, so I'm very excited to read this one, and I will let you all know what I think about it. So that is it for my summer TBR. Again, I have until late September to read all these books, and I will be reading obviously more books than just these, but I hope to kind of make my way through this list. I hope that this won't be too confining for me, we'll see, but I'm really excited about all these books, and I do hope to read them as soon as I can, so I think this is a good motivator. If you're new to my channel, please consider liking this video and subscribing. I put out one bookish video every week, sometimes two, if I can pull it off. If you're still here, thank you so much for being here. I always really appreciate it, and I will see you next time.